Hello, I'm Sarah Jackman Read and I'm a brand ambassador for docrafts. Today I'd like to share 3 embossing techniques using the heat gun and embossing powder. The first technique I'm going to show you is stamping and colouring at the same time on vellum. So I've got this lovely stamp here, which is a background. It's one of the Creativity Essentials stamps and it's a lovely floral background. And I'm going to start off with my Artist Pigment ink pad. And I'm just going to tap that over. Now I've not used an acrylic block to put this stamp on because where it's quite big, I'd rather use it on a flat surface like this. I find it much easier. So I'm just tapping that bit of my clear embossing ink on there. Now I've got some vellum, the Anita's vellum there, which is just, I've pre-cut. And I'm just going to place that on top of the stamp and just gently rub it so I can see where it's vellum as well. I can obviously see where the ink is going, and hopefully I just find this a little bit easier than trying to use a big stamp block. Okay, so now we have our inked vellum. I'll just pop that there. Now I've got a folded piece of card here which I'm going to pop the vellum on because it will just be easier when we need to get rid of our embossing powder. So I'm using the Paper Mania Seafoam White for this. Just going to sprinkle that over the top. Now the key with embossing powder is try not to touch the vellum or the paper you're using because you can get a bit of static. So the less you can touch it, the better the overall effect will be. So I'm just going to take that off, not going to touch it, and you can see that is totally covered and we haven't got any bits. If you do get the odd spot of embossing powder in between, you can just rub that off, either just touch it slightly like that underneath or just rub it off. So I'm popping this vellum on a glass mat because that's obviously heat safe, and I just need to now heat it with the heat tool. Now what I normally do is just have the heat tool on just for a few seconds just to get it to warm up, and then I just gently hold on to that, and then you just go over and start to heat up the embossing powder. As you can see as it's melting, you can just see it gets a shine to it, and obviously the colour comes out as well, so it goes lovely and bright white. Don't get too close to it because obviously it might make the vellum curl up a little bit, and just sort of carefully go over. Don't concentrate on one area too much. So if we just carry on there over the whole of the pattern, and we get our lovely all over design. There we go. A little bit more. So once we've got this design, now I'm going to do some colouring in on the other side. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to add some colour to that, but what we need to do is turn, now that's completely finished, turn the vellum over, and now I'm just going to do some very basic colouring on the other side. I've got the Willow Jewel Tip watercolour pens for this, and I'm going to take 2 colours, one for the leaves and one for the flowers. And I'll just quickly show, I'm just going to take one of these and use the brush end, and then just carefully colour in your flowers. First, I'll just do 2 here. You don't have to be too careful with this. This is the beauty of this technique. You can be quite sort of messy with it. You don't have to worry about going over the lines, because once you turn it over, you get a nice effect. So if we just colour in these leaves, like so. So when you turn that over, you get a lovely effect with the stamp and the colouring. So I've already got one I've completely coloured in here, as you can see. Quite a nice little effect there, very simple. And I've just got one here that I can just pop on a card for you. We'll just pop that there with a sentiment. It's a good way of using all your background stamps if you want to use a different technique with you for using them. Okay, so we've got a nice sentiment there, and that's our finished card. The second technique I'm going to show you today is a simple resist technique. I've got a small gift bag here, one of the Bare Basics gift bags, and I'm going to use the Capsule Neon stamp range, and we've got clear embossing powder this time. So first we're going to use our pigment ink pad again, and pop that on, and I'm just going to create my design. So we're going to use 3 different stamps from the stamp kit. I'll do one at a time so they don't sort of dry out. So we'll just stamp that one 3 times across there. And then we'll add a sprinkle of our Paper Mania clear embossing powder, just over the top. Actually, I will bring in just pop my card under. So we just do that first. And then it's just useful because obviously we can see where we've stamped already, ready for our second stamp. Because I'm using a very thin stamp block, hopefully it shouldn't get in the way of what we've stamped already. But you could always heat emboss this piece first and then before you do the second stamp. We'll just pop that one there. One more there. Bit more of our clear powder. Again, I'm not touching it too much so I don't get too much static there. Just one more. I mean, you could go over the whole of the gift bag if you wanted to, but I'm concentrating just on this area on the right. Pop that on there. One more. So we'll use a bit more of our embossing powder. And then we're ready with our heat tool. So again, I will just heat it up for a couple of seconds. Just brush a little bit of that away, and then we'll just heat up our design. And again, just wait for it. You can just see it melting, and it will go shiny, so you know it's like totally melted then. And then I'm going to use a pigment ink pad on top. I've got a red one here, but obviously you could use any colour you like. This might be quite good for sort of like a wedding gift bag. Just a little bit of sponge there. I'm going to rub that. And obviously if we rub over that design, we'll get the pattern showing through. There we go. And you can just build up the colour as much as you like on here. It's just a very quick way of decorating a bag or a gift box, or even it would work well on a card with a sentiment. Okay. Now you do get a little bit of the ink on top of the, because it's a clear embossing powder. But what I tend to do is use the other side of the sponge and just rub it a little bit, and then you find that you'll get that residue off. You can also use a sort of slightly damp baby wipe. That works as well, so we've showed that. And that is our basic technique. And then what I've done is I've pre-cut just a little sentiment on there, which I've just had a line across. And I'm going to just stick that on first. So I've just kept this really, really simple. But you could add as many elements as you like really with this. Or you could use a white embossing powder or add some colour to it as well. So we'll pop the sentiment on there. And I've also used a Bare Basics wooden heart, which I inked first, and then I added some of the Paper Mania tinsel embossing powder and just melted it. So you've got a very, very quick embellishment. And we'll pop that underneath. And it's a very quick and easy way to make a gift bag. We'll just pop that there. And there is our finished bag. The third technique I'm showing you today is a sort of distress technique using PVA glue and embossing powder. This time I'm going to use this lovely lilac Paper Mania embossing powder. Now I've already done my sentiment on this piece of white card already, so I'm just going to use my background there. Now all I need for this, instead of using an embossing pad, we've just got some of the Anita's tacky glue. I've got one of these a small flat brush, and I'm just going to brush on. You don't have to be too careful with this, but just areas around this sentiment, and this is where the embossing powder will stick. Now you can build this up as much as you want. We'll just start with that sort of amount. I'm going to sprinkle my lilac embossing powder over the top. Now you could use as many colours as you like for this, and you can just build it up as you go along, but just obviously just do one colour first and then heat emboss it before you start the next one. So we'll just shake that off like so, and you can see where the embossing powder has stuck to the PVA glue. Now once you heat emboss this, obviously the PVA will dry underneath. It might take a few minutes. So we'll heat up our embossing powder, and you might find that it does sort of bubble a little bit, but that's obviously just where you've got the PVA glue. So you might want to leave it perhaps say 20 minutes just to make sure. Obviously if you were going to pop it in the post, just leave it for a little while, but you can just see it does bubble up a little bit, but don't be alarmed by that. That's quite normal. It's just the glue heating up with the powder. So we'll pop that on there. But it's just quite a nice technique to get a sort of real sort of distressed or a sort of just a completely different look with your embossing powders rather than stamping a regular design. And that's fine. So I've obviously used the lilac on that one. I do have one that I've finished. I've added another couple. So we pop that one there. On this one, I have used the tinsel gold, so I've added another layer here, and then also you can mix your PVA glue with a little bit of water and splat it, so you can splat it on and then sprinkle your embossing powder over the top. So that is what I've done here. I've just literally splattered a bit on and then melted it, so you get this whole distressed effect. Quite simple, and again you can use as many colours as you like. I've used that lovely copper there, and then we've got our... So really, really quick and easy. And also the beauty about this sort of design is you never know quite what you're going to get. So each one would be totally different because it's such a sort of freehand idea. So we'll pop that on there. And then I've just got a couple of extra embellishments. I've used this fabulous embossing punch tool, butterfly, and this was another one of the X-cut punches, and all I've done with these is punch these out in white cardstock and then just triple emboss them with that copper just so that it matches in with the whole design. And we'll just pop these on. That just finishes off. There's an extra little bit of texture. Pop a bit of glue on the back of the other one. just in the middle, so we can lift the wings up so it gives it a bit more height. Pop that one there. Thank you for joining me today, and hopefully you can join me again soon.